Camille McPherson. I'm a soloist with the San Diego Ballet. I also direct the company's education and development department.
When did dance first enter your life on a personal level?
Well, my parents are both professional musicians, and the story goes, I don't remember this specifically, but they were playing KPBS Arts on TV, and San Francisco Ballet came on, and I was 3 years old, and I was sitting in front of the TV, and my mom said that I was just mesmerized and pointed to the screen, and I said, "Mom, I want to do that." And so they put me in ballet lessons. I do remember going to ballet as a young 3-4-year-old child though, and I do remember really loving it. I mean, I was a very, very girly little girl, and just even getting ready part, doing your hair and getting this like pink little outfit on with sparkles was really great. And I also was always a really meticulous, like rule following child. So I think the disciplinary aspect appealed to me as well. But I remember having a lot of energy, always listening to music around the house because of my parents, and moving to music, and just even as a young child feeling like I was a part of the music was really, really fulfilling to me at a very small age, and I do remember that well.
Do you remember what you saw on the screen? Who was it?
It was San Francisco Ballet, according to my mom, and I believe she said it was the Nutcracker.
Who were your biggest influences in dance and why?
That's a good but hard question. I think at a young age, I always looked up to the girls. It's just varied a lot throughout the years. I always looked up to the girls who were in level above me. And I think that that's a big part of being immersed in a good studio, is like having other students who are positive influences on your training, so you're learning not just from listening to the teacher, but by observing the girls who are better than you. And I had a lot of really wonderful teachers who were really great influences as well. I would go to ballets whenever I could. Like American Ballet Theater would come to town, and we would go and see it, and then my mom would take me to see the local companies too, so that was always incredibly inspirational. Now, with social media, all of my idol dancers basically have social media presence, so you can kind of get a behind the scenes glimpse of what their lives are like, which is pretty cool. And there's tons of great stuff even on YouTube that you can watch for inspiration, so it's nice to have that.
Who's an example of someone social media wise or modern wise who you follow and like, wow, that's amazing?
I really love a couple of the New York City Ballet ballerinas. I really like Ashley Bowder in particular. I think she's a really, really powerful dancer, and I really respect her as both an artist and a person. She really seems like a down-to-earth, and uses her platform to advocate for causes she believes in, and I really admire that. I like Sarah Mearns a lot as well. She also dances with New York City Ballet.
What do you think it is about the New York dance culture that you really like?
I mean, well, they're just like some of the best ballet dancers in the world. Like, that's one of the best companies. Wendy Whalen is retired now, but Julie Kent, I really love Jillian Murphy. She dances with American Ballet Theater. She's phenomenal. Yeah, but again, like any dancer is gonna say these people. So.
I guess historically and also currently, what is your favorite style of music to dance to?
I love to dance to really good, intricate, both melodic and harmonically rich music. So that could be, jazz or more traditional classical. One thing that I really love about San Diego Ballet and about my boss, Javier Velasco's choreography, he really chooses, I believe, wonderful music, and again, like always very rich, fun to dance to and artistically fulfilling pieces to dance to. It's not just fluff. I mean, we do ballets though to tango pieces, to again like bebop, all the traditional classical stuff, to mambo, to Latin jazz. So it's really fun. I think I love having that variety. I mean, I think that's fun as an artist. You know, you get to push your boundaries and you don't have to be stuck in one little box for too long. You know, you can experiment with this and then this and then this. And that's really, really fun. What I really dislike is monotone, techno sounding, really repetitive music where there's just nothing there, elevator music. That kind of stuff to me, even if the choreography is interesting, it doesn't move me as a person. So it's almost like easier to answer what I dislike versus what I like.
As a dancer, how do you tell the difference in dance style?
I think if anything, if the movement is less classical, you might actually have to have a little bit more fluidity in your body. Classical ballet is very much about dancing within the confines of certain positions. You know, just as an example, you could move your arms like here to here to here, but you wouldn't want to do like anything with outside of those shapes. You're not classical anymore. Obviously, that doesn't mean that it's wrong, because there's stylized ballet all over the place, and certain techniques too have different lines. You know, some people like arms higher and lower. Balanchine technique also pushes those classical boundaries a little bit more. Balanchine is he's considered the father of American ballet. He actually founded New York City Ballet. When you are doing stylized ballet and you can dance outside of those traditional classical lines, again, you probably have to introduce a little bit more fluidity in your body. That said, if your technique is not up to par, it's danger zone, because you know, your balance isn't right and your strength isn't where it needs to be to try to, you know, be able to do things off balance but on point. Or again, you know, not necessarily hold yourself in the same upright position, but you still have, if it's ballet, typically you'll have point shoes. Not always, but often. We certainly do. So technically it can be, you know, just as challenging, if not more challenging. But I would say when you are learning like strictly classical ballet too, I suppose the challenge there is just really making sure that you're maintaining the classicism of the piece. Obviously, you know, you can add your own artistic expression to a point if you're a soloist or a principal. If you're working in the corps de ballet, your job then is really to just match the other dancers.
Do all dancers really like focus in on the music like that, the neoclassical, you know, like?
That actually refers to ballet styles and music, but I think, you know, probably the best dancers have a good sense of musicality and probably know a little something about music as well. But that said, you know, it's not necessarily a prerequisite. It does certainly help. I think also, just in terms of like depth of artistry, I think your job as a dancer really is to use your body as an additional instrument. And if the music is not speaking to you or meaning anything to you, I'm not really sure how you could join the band, so to speak. You know, I also, every dancer is different, but to me, music can move me so powerfully, and that really serves as an inspiration to me as a dancer. It's a huge reason why I enjoy dance, is because of the music. To me, I can't really separate the two. I mean, if it's not there, then I'm just doing random exercises. So I don't know that everyone necessarily feels that way, but a lot of my coworkers and colleagues and the dancers who I look up to me, I really see that cohesiveness between the music and what their bodies are doing. I think that's a huge part of it.
What is your favorite exercise or move?
So the way a ballet class is structured, even professional dancers will take ballet class at the beginning of their rehearsal day. It's usually an hour and a half, and there's a series of exercises that you do in the same order every single day, and it's a part of how you warm your body up and maintain your technique to perform. If you don't do that routine, you cannot dance. Like, it's not gonna happen. So I mean, it's almost like, it's funny to pick a favorite because they're each, you really need every single one of them. I mean, it's a very methodical, they're worked out, order and routine of how to warm your body up to prepare you for rehearsal day. Even just like plies, the first thing you do, you bend your knees, you move your upper body, you stretch a little bit. I mean, that right there it feels good to get your body stretched out in that way. I've always been naturally flexible, so I tend to like adagio in the center, which is slow. Usually you get your leg up high and hold it. That's always come a little bit more naturally for me. And then towards the end of class, you move into jumps, like first small jumps, then they gradually get bigger.
Actually, would you mind just listing the structure of the ballet class? What do you start?
This is first. This is second. Third position is like a preparatory position. I teach the little ones third position rather than fifth, because fifth is hard. So, but after you're done with like kinder ballet, you don't do third anymore. This is fourth position, and then this is fifth position. Designed to warm up your body adequately. Like, you don't go into the studio and right away start kicking your legs up or like doing huge jumps because you would injure yourself. So then you always do afterwards plie, and all the names that have English meanings, it's all in French, so it means to bend. Next, you usually, this is first position, you usually do some tendu with your feet in first. Then you do it in fifth, because again, fifth is like a little bit harder on your hips. Then you start slowly like doing bigger movements. The next thing you do is a dégagé. So it's the same, but you're taking your leg off the floor. Then you do what's called a rond de jambe. This is like really warming the hips up. Then at that point, you're usually ready to stretch and start kicking your legs up a little bit higher. So then you finish doing like something like this, getting your legs all the way up. Then last thing you do at the bar, I skipped it with them because I wanted to get them in the center. You do grommet bas, so big kicks, all the way up. I'm not fully warm right now. Then you come to the center and you kind of repeat the process. First thing you do in the center are like tendus. You would then do some like balances, some turns. You then take your leg again like you do. Usually you do a normal ballet class takes an hour to 45 minutes. Then you would do what's called an adagio, getting your legs like all the way up again. And you go to the corner, go across the floor, more turns, then come back to the center. You do small jumps, you start doing bigger jumps, you finish with across the floor like huge jumps, splits in the air. So that's a ballet class. the purpose of ballet is to, I think, to evoke an emotional response from the audience. It's to portray, the wide range of human emotions and feelings, and the things that you do in ballet, honing in on your technique is not necessarily to do a trick. It's so that you have freedom of artistic expression.
Can you describe what it felt like growing up in an artsy family?
Yeah, I think, my parents both being professional artists. My uncle he's retired now, but he was a professional musician. My brother is also a professional musician. I mean, it was very much a part of, I think, our family culture. And I would say, not only did it help me artistically, having, wonderful music playing around the house, I'm sure that helped my sense of musicality. But it also really helped in terms of just having the support to pursue an artistic career. And I think that's a big part of it. Not all parents are thrilled at the prospect of their, child foregoing college to go to pursue, life in a professional ballet company. That's not to say that my parents were necessarily thrilled with that either. They value education, and I think they were a little hesitant about that. But I was very resolute in thinking that was really the only choice that I had if I wanted to pursue ballet professionally, and I believe I was right. And so they understood. But growing up to all the driving to ballet lessons, summers away from home, again, to study more seriously, it's a lot of time and money, and my parents believed in me and supported me, and also being professional musicians, it's not like they had cash to throw around. I mean, it was certainly an investment for them and a sacrifice at times, so I certainly never took that for granted either. I knew that I knew what things were costing, and I really appreciated it. But again, they didn't balk. I was always a hard worker, so it was like, well, if you're working hard, this is a good investment, and this is what we will support you. So that meant a lot.
At what age did you really get serious?
I thought that I was serious at like 8, 9. I did go to class a lot, and so I was serious then. But you're so young, you have so much time to change your mind. I would say by 14. That's when I was serious, and at that point, that's really when you need to make the decision. 8 or 9, again, you've got a lot of time in between, and a lot of time to change and grow out of it. But by 14, I really knew.
So it was like late middle school, early high school. What changed in your life to make it more serious at that time?
I mean, I think just in general, that's just kind of a time when you do start really thinking more seriously about, not everyone, but, well, what do I want to be? What do I want to do? Ballet is very youth-centered, of course. So if you are going to pursue ballet, you need to figure that out sooner rather than later. Middle school for me was kind of a weird time. I mean, I think as a lot of people experience, you're kind of silly in middle school and kind of trying to figure out who you are and what you're doing. But by the end of that, so I wasn't particularly serious. I still did study ballet, and I was there a lot, but I think I was distracted by other things. Really, it's really probably only about a year, I would say, where I could have been studying and working more than I did. But but by the end of 8th grade, I really knew again. And then by the end of 9th grade, I did my first summer abroad, and that was very intense ballet training for a month. And you get to be with dancers from around the country. It's supposed to be kind of like a glimpse into professional life, like what that's going to be like, dancing all day, and I really loved it. So I would say I knew that was going to be kind of like a potential game changer, and it was. So
are those the summer intensives?
Yeah, summer intensives,
so
yeah.
Did you go after 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th?
Yep.
Okay, so 4.
Yep.
the first one, as you were a freshman that summer, what was that like? Where did you go?
So I went to, it was a small summer intensive called the Jelana School. I don't know if it's still going on. It was run up in Taos, and the director was this former New York City Ballet absolute prodigy of a dancer. She just goes by Jelana. She doesn't need a last name. And when I did the program, she was in her 70s and was still just a force of nature. I mean, she was probably in better shape than all of us. She would like bike ride everywhere. She would still put her point shoes on. I mean, again, like a just phenomenal woman, such a powerhouse. And so she ran this intensive, and it was relatively small. I would guess there were probably about 150 of us total. And then the following summer, I think it was a good first summer intensive, and that number could be wrong. I don't know. I'd have to check that, but I think that was probably about right. Second intensive I went to, because I thought, okay, well, it was a small one, and that was a good like initiation into this world. I want to do something bigger now, so I did Boston Ballets, and then the following year, I did the Washington School of Ballet summer intensive in DC, which was more medium size. And then the year after that, I did Pittsburgh Ballet Theater's summer intensive, which was also, I would say, medium to big. And I ended up staying there for their trainee program after the summer.
Can you paint a picture for me? Like, what did your schedule look like? And did you all rehearse together, or was it just...
So it was a variety of ages, and the very first day after you get there, there's a placement class. So it's not like you're in a class with 150 people. They separate you into groups based on age and level, and then you have a series of classes throughout the day. So it'd be a mix of like ballet technique, point variations, probably like modern or jazz, and then Pilates. And you're usually dancing for like 5 to 6 hours a day, which is what you do in a company. So I mean, it was a blast. They put us up in like these ski condos. So I was in a room with a bunch of other girls. I was on the younger side, which was kind of fun. So we would, there wasn't too much to do around there during the summer. Again, it was it was like a ski resort, basically, Taos. But there would be like, a little place where we would get like ice cream and watch Heath Ledger movies and just gossip, and they did have a little town. We all went to the town like a couple days, so just girly stuff. It was we dyed our hair with Kool-Aid one day. It was really fun.
What was the first professional gig that you had?
When I was a trainee with Pittsburgh Ballet Theater, I got to do a professional Nutcracker with them. However, I was a trainee, so obviously I didn't get paid. I did get a pair of point shoes, which was pretty cool. And then I did an apprenticeship with California Ballet, which is like an internship kind of a thing. But then my first real job was paid job was with San Diego Ballet. And that I got that contract when I was 19. It was a while ago.
What was the first time you toured?
Also 19 with San Diego Ballet. Yeah, we went on tour that year.
And where'd you go?
Just Billings, Montana.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was that like?
There are some really fun, cool aspects of it, but that first tour was hard for me because I got sick, and which is I've learned is kind of a hallmark of being on tour. Eventually you get sick. And I remember it was hard. The very first day, so we flew in the day after Thanksgiving, so it was Black Friday, and we had to be at the airport at like an ungodly hour, like 4 a.m. or something. Get to this flight to Billings. There's a layover somewhere because there's no direct flights to Billings. The airport is tiny. And then we had to go, I think we dropped our stuff off at the hotel and immediately went to the theater to do a tech rehearsal of the class, and then a tech rehearsal of the Nutcracker, and then a dress rehearsal of the Nutcracker. And I remember I didn't realize that this was my first year. I didn't realize what the schedule was going to be exactly. Like I don't know where I thought this magical food was going to come from, but I just assumed that I would get there and be able to get something to eat. So I didn't really have food, and we basically didn't have time to get food until like 10 that night. And so I think I had like, all I had with me was like trail mix or something. And I just remember being so tired and so hungry. And, but I really wanted to make a good impression because it was my first year. I mean, I was backstage crying just because I was just exhausted. And again, like very hungry. So it was hard. Now I bring lots of snacks. But fortunately also we typically, our schedule, I mean, knock on wood, they don't switch it back. We usually now leave on Thanksgiving Day, which is actually much preferable because then we can just fly in and not have to go straight to the theater, which is really tough.
Have you seen that maybe like in the also newcomers that come like in your years, and like I'm just wondering like what it's like, you know, to be on like the experience side of that, and like what you might advise like to like the new, you know, the newcomers and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny you should ask that because I'm definitely not the only one who's cried back there. I have seen other dancers go through that, and I always give them a hug and tell them, oh, I've done this as well. And that's not even, I mean, I probably cried once. I still cry on Nutcracker tour. There's always at least one thing where you just like, that's it, I can't take it anymore. Just because it's just, you know, I think it's just a lot, like a hard schedule. It's physical and you're not at home. You don't have your creature comforts. You don't really have a break from it all. So it's like sometimes there's just like one thing that happens and it's just like all of a sudden you're just overwhelmed and there's too many emotions and you got to start crying. So
what advice do you have for young dancers who are looking to tour?
Bring snacks. That's my advice.
What does your tour schedule look like?
So typically it's hard. We'll have like, so that year we only went to one city, but sometimes we go to multiple cities and we're gone for a couple of weeks. And, you know, basically you get there, if you're lucky, if you get the first night to just chill. And then the second day, class at the theater, tech rehearsal, dress rehearsal. The second day, I believe we had a second dress rehearsal and then a show. Or maybe we had two, then some days, and then maybe one day. It's almost like, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but there are some days in tour where it's like, you do have, again, like a tech and a dress, or a dress and a show, or two dress rehearsals. Or double show days, which are the hardest, especially just because we are a smaller company and just the way it worked out. I really never have a double cast, so all the parts that I do all the time, whereas others sometimes get to rotate with people. So there are some days when there's only one show and it almost feels like a day off. It's like, oh, we just do it once and then it's over with. Then it's almost, it's funny to say this too, but I think with Nutcracker too, because I know it so well, the dress rehearsals feel so much harder than the shows to me, because when you're performing, it's fun to perform, and no matter what happens, it's show, so it's only gonna happen once. Whereas, and usually also, again, I've been doing it for so long, there's a lot of children involved in Nutcracker, so there's, you know, it's challenging because the kids need a lot of coaching and they make mistakes, which is extremely natural. But then it's like, okay, stop, let's do this again, and then this again, and again, and again. And, you know, that of course prolongs the hours. But again, if it's show, even if they mess up, you're not doing it again because it's the show, so you just move on. The kids usually really do well though, pretty cute. And if they don't, again, who cares, they're cute, so.
What particular role did you play in this one?
So I did Queen Rat in the battle scene, Snowflake. I was background Arabian my first 2 years, and then Waltz of the Flowers. And now I do the same Queen Rat. Can't seem to get out of that role. It's fun. Fortunately, I have a giant rat head, so nobody knows it's me. I mean, everybody knows, but it's like I don't know. Having the head makes it feel like I have like a disguise. It's a cute role. And then I still do Snow, and now I do the Principal Arabian role, and I still do Waltz of the Flowers. Again, it's like it's a lot. It's also, it's like the quick changes are half of the battle, because I think sometimes of like, man, this show would be a whole different thing if I was just in one costume versus like, it's literally like, okay, the Rat Queen, which is the quick change into Snow, and then that's kind of a quick change into Arabian. Then I have to put flowers on, and then I have to put Arabian back on for the finale. And there's like all of these headpieces, all of these intricate little, you know, it's just a lot to be like, then dancing, and again, it's just a lot.
What roles do you like to play? What kind of personas do you like to inhabit?
I typically get cast in like, well, I guess it depends. I've been the villain, or like a seductress, a couple of times. That's actually pretty fun. I often have, I feel like, kind of beguiling, enigmatic choreography, and I like to embody that on stage, like mysterious music. That's very fun for me, and I feel very comfortable doing that.
What is something you look for in a successful dance partner?
That's a good question. I think it really helps, all the technical stuff aside, it's really fun if you like your partner personally, because then I think your dynamic together in the studio, it's just, you just have a good time. Even if, you know, if the choreography is hard or something is not working out, it's, you know, obviously like you still work hard, it's your job, but it's almost kind of funny, and it's like something you're working through together versus like, why can't you do this? And you're terrible, put me on my leg. You know, so I think like having a good personal rapport and respect for your partner really helps a lot, so that even the challenging stuff, again, like the process is fun that way. And the performance is really fun too. I've had some really good partners, and it's really fun to get on stage and to dance with somebody else, and to be able to enjoy each other in that way on stage, like have fun together on stage, is really nice. My very first partner, Joe Hawkschild, was really, I mean, he was just such a fun, funny person, and I think he'll always be special to me because, you know, he was my first partner. But he was such a jokester. Like the ballet etiquette is, you know, the men are supposed to be chivalrous, so you know, a lot of the times you find yourself on the floor for whatever reason, like a partnering thing, or even if it's just in between something and you're just stretching. And so the etiquette states that, you know, your partner should like reach his hand out and offer you up the floor. And Joe, but I love him, I think it's hilarious, but you know, he would look at me and just like kick me. And I remember when he retired, which was very sad, I got a new partner. I loved Adam. Adam was a great friend of mine, and we had a great time dancing together. He was a really good partner too. But I remember the first time he offered me his hand when I was on the floor, and I gave him a funny look. I was like, what are you doing? And then he's like, I'm helping you up. And I said to him, oh, that's right. I said I had forgotten, because I'm used to Joe, who would literally kick me. I'd be stretching, and he would come over and like make a fart noise as if that was me. But again, I like to laugh. So to me, that was all really funny. Matt Carney is another partner I've had, and he's a good friend of mine. He's actually my boss now, but good friend, really good boss, and he was a great partner too. So it's just been, I've had some really, really great partners.
How important it is to, like, you know, to be friends with the people in your production, like hang out with them outside of, like, you know, if that's like, or how that, you know, how that even affects, if it does.
I mean, I don't know that you necessarily need to hang out with them outside of this. I think so long as, and also it's not like you can't partner together if you don't like each other. But, you know, there are a lot of dancers, I really enjoy them in the space, and we work great together. We don't hang out all the time. I mean, sure, there'll be like house parties and everything, but it's not like, you know, every weekend we're all hanging out. But, I mean, that's nice if that's how it works. I wouldn't say, like, again, like the outside of the studio is necessarily as important as your dynamic in the studio. I would agree though that you're right, it is, I mean, certainly physically more intimate. I mean, my partner's had his hand basically like up my butt, so. And you probably don't do that in music.
Yeah, no, not my choice at least, you know?
No, I mean, I've literally like, we've done like, try to do lip, like a certain lift didn't work out and I got kind of like stuck, literally like my face is like in my partner's crotch basically. That stuff is like very common.
What is a personal obstacle you've had to overcome?
You know, I think one of the hardest personal obstacles in ballet, and certainly I mean, pretty much every dancer experiences this. I would just say getting injured is always difficult. You know, I've had a good handful of injuries. I've recovered, fortunately, from all of them, but, you know, the recovery is always a process and it requires a lot of patience. And I think, too, it can be difficult when something is open-ended. You don't necessarily know when it's going to get better, or I haven't had an injury where it was like where I was unsure that it would get better, but you know, that happens to dancers. I mean, it's a really precarious job, and unfortunately, you know, you do all these things, but ultimately you're not in full control. I remember earlier this year, I got to do a performance outside, which was like the first time I had performed live in like over a year and a half. And I'm literally like, I have my bag, I'm walking down the stairs, and my foot gets caught in the stairs, and I barely, fortunately I didn't, but it was like a bit of a pull on my foot there, and I was like, oh my God, what if I just minor, and it was an ankle I had sprained before. It's like, I could have just sprained my ankle. I'm just like, okay, how does it feel? I think it's okay. But something did definitely get a little overstretched. So then it's like the whole day I'm freaking out about like, I can't believe. And it was just this moment where I mean, not that I didn't know this, but it really honed in. I am literally at any point one step away from everything tanking. And you know, something like, it's not even dancing. It's just literally like going down the stairs, you know, your foot gets caught. So that could be, you know, that can be hard. So, but I think especially being older now, I really try to do my best to appreciate every performance for what it is, knowing that it is finite. You cannot dance forever. And even, you know, a long career in dance and be, you know, between, I mean, honestly, 10 years is like a long career. But compared to a lot of other arts, that's a drop in the bucket. So, you know, it is kind of course you can continue your career in ballet while not actively performing. Many dancers do that. They don't just transition out of ballet, but you know, you are working with a shorter time span. So that's kind of sad.
How do you maintain health and fitness to be a successful dancer?
Every dancer has their own routine and every body is different. I do think though, you know, to have a long career, you do have to make sure that you're caring for your body properly. So you have to eat well, drink a lot of water, you know, make sure you're getting enough sleep. Cross training is great, really important. But that said, you know, you want to make sure that you give yourself the rest that you need. It's hard to balance all of those things though with you know, performance schedule, and then a lot of dancers teach, so you know, it can be hard to find that balance sometimes.
What interests do you have outside of dance, and how do you think they help both?
I don't know that these particular interests help dancing. I really like history and I like to read, so I love like period dramas. I love all the masterpiece shows that they play on PBS, so those just make my heart sing. And I also like to cook and bake, and I tend to enjoy making like healthier versions of maybe traditional classics, or just I'm like into nutrition in general, so I would say those probably relate directly to dance. I do like Pilates a lot as well, which is you know, recreation, but it's cross training, so it's good for ballet. I was gonna say though, I think in general, whatever other interests you have, I do think it's important for artists to be well-rounded. I think just to give you perspective on your own art, but also just to make sure that you're a whole person, which I think translates into being a better artist, because I think to be a strong artist, you have to have a sense of empathy. It can't be about yourself. It's a giving profession, right? So you have to be giving something to the audience, and then to be able to give, you have to be able to understand people and understand what they need. And just to be able to connect with people emotionally, I think requires empathy. But I also just think for your own mental health, you know, it's not an easy career. And I think if you think that you only live and breathe to do ballet, what happens when you break your foot? Or, you know, just if you have a bad day at dance, I mean, it's a struggle to do this regardless. You know, you feel, at least I feel like less than as a person. I don't know that, I think from my perspective, it's maybe unique in that way. Obviously, I can't speak out of experience, but I imagine that in a lot of professions, having a bad day at work doesn't make you feel like your soul hurts, you know, like if you're an accountant or whatever. Again, you know, not necessarily not that it doesn't ruin other parts of your day, but it's like your whole being, you feel inferior, and that's hard. So, but my point is, if you don't make sure that you have outside interests or other things that give you satisfaction and fulfillment and reward and pleasure, those hard days are going to be a lot harder. And you know, if you have an injury or a career cut shorter than you planned, that too, I mean, that's sad regardless, but it certainly helps to have some other things on the back burner that you think you might want to dive into.
In your 10th year with San Diego Ballet, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats.
And I know this is really hard to answer in one question, but kind of in reflection, how have you grown? What have you learned?
I feel a lot more relaxed on stage. I think, not that I don't get nervous, because I do, but I do think also just being able to grow and develop as a person and to have life experience and to live has made me a much stronger artist, because I've felt a lot and experienced a lot, and I can tap into that when I'm on stage. I think that's like a huge gift, actually, to be able, that's something I think that's nice about watching dancers who are more mature, because I think, again, you know, how can you be portraying these deep feelings and moods if, you know, you're 20 years old? I mean, not that you can't be a good artist or a developing artist, but it's a whole different picture when you're in your late 20s or early 30s. You've just experienced more, and I think that really translates. So that's been nice. I do think I've gotten stronger. I think I have more control. There's still a lot that I'm working on. I don't think that ever stops. And I'm trying. You know, it's funny because I remember not feeling particularly confident as an aspiring dancer. So when I was in like pre-professional stage, and I remember setting hallmarks or benchmarks rather for myself. Like, okay, well, when I get into like a traineeship, that I'll feel confident then, and I'll know because I will have gotten to this point. You know, I got my traineeship. Miraculously, that didn't happen. I wasn't all of a sudden confident. Then it was something else. Well, once I get like a job, I got a job, same deal. It didn't automatically happen. And then I remember also thinking, well, you know what? When I start getting solos, then I'll feel good about myself then. Same thing. And then it, you know, it's funny because like you get to there's always like a little bit of a hierarchy in ballet. And once you do start getting better parts, it's not like you then become comfortable. Then you're just worried that the up and coming dancers are going to take your parts. So I learned that there is no exterior benchmark or person or title or contract is ever going to make you feel good about yourself. It is an internal thing. And I think you also have to be okay with not always feeling your best. And just, that's just what it's going to be. And, I think it's hard, but, you have to try to appreciate what you do well versus always harping on yourself for what you want to be better. Again, these are lessons that I feel like I'm still in the process of learning. I mean, I can say them, but it's a different thing experiencing them. I mean, again, like it is, you really get in your head about things. But it is becoming a little bit easier as I get older. So, and I would say that those are good things to keep in mind for up and coming dancers as well.
What are your goals for the future of dance?
I would like to keep performing for as long as I can. It's hard to say how long that's going to be. I think I have some years left though. I love teaching. I really love working on the administrative side as well. It's fulfilling to me because I believe in the mission of the company. And so I think like the work is rewarding because, again, I feel passionately about the ballet company. So it's like, even if I'm just sending emails, I feel like the purpose is meaningful. So I would like to keep working in arts administration and dance as long as I can, and then teach for as long as I can post performing. So I would say, I guess those are the goals.